So which is superior? A book that fixes the ratio, man gets equal to two women, or a book that says you give the firstborn, right, double portion,
Yeah.
right, or half, and then the rest you divide it equitably.
No, I agree that with it being more, with it not being fixed, then it could be more progressive as the time goes on. So you see, I think it's very problematic the way it works in our media, because they show you with one side, they cherry pick one verse here and there, and then they say, here, look, we're so much better, we're so much more progressive. You see, these people are so naive and they just trust their priests and they don't think for themselves.
Yeah, that sounds like the Muslims who follow these the shuyukh, right? What kind of paradise is this for my mother, my daughters, my sisters, my granddaughters, that says that awaiting men are women with big firm breasts? 78:33 of the Quran. If you go to chapter 78, verse 33 of the Quran.
Yes.
So Song of Solomon is a book written for husband and wife to learn how to enjoy each other and how to romance each other. Of course, we're not saying it's for kids, but you're talking about paradise. Why on earth is the pleasure of paradise sexual when in paradise we live forever and we don't need to have sex to procreate because we're not going to die and need to be replaced by other humans?
Okay, so the other one would be about Jacob and his brother. I don't know how to say it in English. It's Esau in English. Yeah, so with him stealing, I don't know what it is in English, but it's called barakah in Arabic.
Stealing the blessing, where he pretended to be, he pretended to be Esau with the help of his mother, and he deceived his father.
Yes.
Okay. So what was the problem with that? What was the objection? So I can answer.
It was just the guy was saying, how could God be deceived by that? But
Who
then
said God was deceived?
I thought to myself, we don't have that story, so how can we prove that that's not really what happened? Because we don't know Esau. All we know is just, Jacob just has his 12 kids and that's it. That's really all we know.
Let's go beyond that. Let's go beyond that. Who told you he deceived God? He wasn't deceiving God. He deceived Isaac. Isaac was partially blind, couldn't see. He blessed Jacob, but that's not God blessing him. That's Isaac blessing him by mistake. Where's the deception on the part of God?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. But which is the blessing part? He was supposed to bless Esau, but then he did it with Jacob. Mm-hmm. Is that the story?
Yeah.
Is that what was meant to happen anyways?
No. Because when did Jacob get blessed? Who's going to bless Jacob? God, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You know when he blessed him? Genesis 32, 27 to 30. God shows up as a man and wrestles with Jacob, and that's when he blessed him and changed his name.
Uh-huh. So 32 what?
Chapter 32, verses 27 to 30. Genesis 32, 27. I'm sorry, you can read Genesis 32. Don't start at 27 because I want you to read the whole context. Start at 24.
Okay.
Genesis 32, 24 to 30. There is when he received the blessing from God, not from Isaac. That's not when God blessed him. If you go to Genesis 32 and you read 24 to 30, what do you find there? You can read in Arabic and see it says that a man wrestled with Jacob, right? Till the breaking of day, right?
Which is like he wrestled with him until like the sunrise.
Okay, but if you read all the way to 30, glance at it, that man turned out to be God, and Jacob said, I won't let you go until you bless me. And then in 27 and 28, he says, what is your name? He said, Jacob. He goes, your name is no longer Jacob, but Israel.
Israel.
Because you wrestled with God and man, and you prevailed, you won. And then in verse 30, it says, Jacob called the place Peniel because he said, I saw God face to face and my life was spared.
I see. I see it.
Okay, so I have two questions. Number one.
Yes.
Did God bless him when he deceived Isaac, or did he bless him later?
No, it seems you're right. He did it later.
Okay, but now second problem for you. Remember, this is the Torah of the Jews, the Bani Israel, the Yahud. It's not in the Christian hand. Why does the Torah agree with the Christians that God can appear as a man and can be touched?
I also watched when you pointed the verses out that say that the Quran doesn't really say about the corruption. So I agree with you there. And at this point, when if I want to believe in this scripture, and I'm seeing that it makes more sense, because I also saw your video, which was about treatment of war prisoners or war captives, and how you were making that comparison. I realized that what we were told was all not true, because we were told that oh no, Islam came to make it better for them, and it was all revolutionary, but it doesn't really seem like it. So I'm more really on the fence at this point, especially after like having these discussions with you, because no one answers my questions, because I'm not really in a place where they can we don't really have a loud voice of Arabic apologetics in Christianity.
You have me here. You have internet, Skype. Anytime you have a question, you can call me, because like I said, I've told people, when people have sincere questions and objections, I'll spend all day answering them. But if someone comes to attack and mock, they won't last. So you're proof, because I will serve you for the sake of Jesus, who loves you, who's in love with you, as long as I live, by the grace of God. So you don't hesitate to call me and ask me questions. So now ask a couple more. If you have a couple more, let's answer them.
Okay. Yes, I think I can think of two more. So one more question that they like to bring up a lot is how, like in the Hebrew Bible, the inheritance for women was different, and then in Christianity it was more like secular, like it was more of a secular law, so it wasn't really bound by the book. So they say, oh, here, look, we guarantee at least half. Okay, it may be bad by today's standard, but for 2,000 years it wasn't bad. Or I mean, sorry, like 1,300 years, it wasn't bad. So, I mean, I know that it's better today, but I don't really know how to respond to something like that.
They're telling you, they're speaking from ignorance. The Bible nowhere commands how much inheritance to be allotted to the women, because that's an open door that's left open instead of fixing it, because again, circumstances change. When you have something fixed, it becomes what we call inviolable, meaning it cannot be changed. But when you have principles and you leave the door open, that means you can look at each circumstance and look at the family and how many sons and how many daughters, and then split it evenly. The only rule you have in the Bible is the firstborn gets a double portion. The rest, you divide it equitably among all of them, including the women. There's nothing in the Bible that says women don't inherit, or if they inherit, less than the boys. It doesn't say that. So actually the Bible is actually superior to the Quran, because the Quran fixes it. It says the man equal to 2 women, right?
Yes.
Not in the Bible. It's open. So let's say I have $1 million. I have $1 million, and I have 2 boys and 2 girls. My oldest, the oldest is a boy, firstborn. He gets $500,000, but then the other $500,000 is shared equally with the 3. There's nothing that prohibits it. In fact, when you then come to the New Testament, let me show you what Paul says, the principle. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 14. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 14. And don't forget another thing, in that society, women are married off, so they're always provided for, because a husband has to provide for his spouse and children. But still, with that said, there's nothing in the Old Testament, and if again, I'm not perfect, I may be wrong. Say, can you show me where in the Old Testament it says women don't inherit, or if they inherit, this is how much they inherit? It's not stated, because it's left open. The only thing that is stated is the firstborn gets a double portion. But if you go to 2 Corinthians 12, 14, here Paul is commenting on something that is a given fact, something acceptable, Jews, Christians, even the Greeks. And what is it? Here it is, 2 Corinthians 12, 14. Behold, the third time I'm ready to come to you. I will not be burdensome to you. For I seek not yours, but you. I seek you. I don't want what you have, I want you. For the children do not lay up for the parents, but parents for the children. Does it say only the boys?
No.
That's the principle. The duty of the parents is to make sure they store up for their children, whether girls or boys. So the only rule you have, if you have a firstborn, he gets half. And then the rest, you then divide it equitably among the other siblings, whether boys or girls. So which is superior? A book that fixes the ratio, man gets equal to two women, or a book that says you give the firstborn, right, double portion,
Yeah.
right, or half, and then the rest you divide it equitably.
No, I agree that with it being more with it not being fixed, then it could be more progressive as the time goes on. So even if the firstborn was a female, the rule still applies.
Well, see, here's the thing: firstborn. Remember, patriarchal society. This is another
Yes.
tricky thing. In a patriarchal society, the firstborn is the one who carries your name.
Oh, I
Because
see.
remember,
Okay.
in that society, the biblical as well as Quranic, it's called a patriarchal society, meaning
Yes.
you consider the firstborn the son who carries your name. So that's the firstborn. So even if my daughter's the oldest, she's not going to carry my name. She's going to carry the name of someone else. Right?
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but now let's say you have no sons, all girls. Now that's a different story. And the Bible even has principles to address that. Right? And you'll find that in Numbers 27 and onwards, where the daughters of Zelophehad, and they even come to Moses saying, our father has no sons. What is his share? So his share was given to his daughters.
I see it. I see it.
Right?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So which is more fair? Did you leave it open because you have to take into consideration the circumstances and the situation, or you fix it and then have to deal with the problems of fixing it that is not compatible with the reality of the situation at hand, and then you have to come up with 1,001 ways of getting around it.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you here. You see, I think it's very problematic the way it works in our media, because they show you one side, they cherry pick one verse here and there, and then they say, here, look, we're so much better, we're so much more progressive. You see, these people are so naive and they just trust their priests and they don't think for themselves.
Yeah, that sounds like the Muslims who follow the shiuch, right?
Yeah. It's exactly. So I agree, and also I've seen, but it's like what is the promise of the afterlife, and I've seen what it is in Islam, but they don't really make a big deal out of it. They just say it's just a part of it. But the more I'm thinking, the more I see that one is clearly superior from the other. And when I'm saying this, it probably just kicks me out of Islam anyways. So it's it looks very obvious to me that which one is more superior to the other.
No, even let's go with Islam. Let's assume the Bible had nothing to say about Jannah, paradise, to show why the Islamic paradise is evil. Even if we go with just the Quran, what kind of paradise is this for my mother, my daughters, my sisters, my granddaughters, that says that awaiting men are women with big, firm breasts? 78:33 of the Quran. If you go to chapter 78, verse 33 of the Quran. I'm sorry, someone's distracting me. 78:33 of the Quran. Or Kawab, you know the Atraba. Yeah, okay, that one. Yeah. And what kind of Quran is this, where you go to the Quran chapter 55 and then you read where it says that you have these huriyat there whom no man or jinn has deflowered?
Oh, lam yatmithunna insun qablan wala jan.
So you know it. You quoted
very creepy, weird. Right? I mean, why would the demon or the jinn why would they?
And then why speak such language? Big breasts, big boobs, big tits, and no one deflowered, meaning you're going to deflower them. Then we go to the hadith, and you're going to have erections that are hard, not soft. I mean, come on, is this a way to talk about the paradise of God?
No, but then they bring up Song of Solomon and they say, "Oh, how can you let the kids read that?"
Okay, so number one, we don't let kids read that. But number two, there is sex on marriage on earth, right? And I'll answer that. Good.
Yeah.
There is sexual, because why? On earth, you need sex to reproduce and maintain and preserve the human race, right?
Yes.
So Song of Solomon is a book written for husband and wife to learn how to enjoy each other and how to romance each other. Of course, we're not saying it's for kids, but you're talking about paradise. Why on earth is the pleasure paradise sexual when in paradise we live forever and we don't need to have sex to procreate because we're not going to die and need to be replaced by other humans?
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
So on earth, I
Well,
can understand a book about sexual intimacy because God gave sex between husband and wife to enjoy each other. And he's saying, God saying, this book shows you my delight for husband and wife, romance each other, sweet talk each other, enjoy each other, and then reproduce and preserve the human race. Because this is a gift for you here now on earth. Because when you enter my presence, you won't need to procreate because you're not going to die. And sex is not the greatest pleasure. The greatest pleasure is dwelling in my presence, being filled with my love, joy, and peace. A love, joy, and peace that words cannot describe.
but very different. Yes, there's been very good answers to the questions, and I just really have one more, and I just don't want to take too much of your time. I respect that you're asking.
Don't take much time. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm here.
So the last question would be in the verse in I guess the entirety of Ezekiel 23.
Oh,
now I understand that to have to make this sort of like imagery, it's sort of like very saying graphic, I despise what the like I don't know what to say how to say in English the two
sisters, Aholah and Aholabah.
Yeah.
That's easy. Ezekiel 23:20. Brother, it's very easy to explain. First of all, when a Muslim tells me that, and I'm going to answer you, I say, please, Muslim, if anyone has a problem, it shouldn't be you. Never bring up Ezekiel 23 unless you're going to be atheist. Why? Because in the Quran, I just gave you graphic passages. You mentioned it, chapter 55. And then only that, what do you do with chapter 66, verse 12? It says, Maryam bint Imran, ahsanat farjaha, and we blew into her. I don't want to say it in English, but you get it. Now, is that okay? Yes. But the farjaha, what's farj?
It's her vagina.
So it's okay, Muslim, for your God to say Mary protected her vagina and we blew in her vagina. That's okay.
You're right.
Okay, that's 66:12. But now, that's disgusting and perverted to talk about the mother of Christ and how she conceived. But put that aside.
I agree.
Ezekiel 23, let me explain it because it's very easy to explain. If you actually
and it's not just verse 20. It's just like the other verse that would say like, her breasts are too swollen or nipples are too swollen.
Or they're lovers. They're lovers. And okay. But in Ezekiel 23, if you read it first, you're going to understand. He's talking about two nations. They're not actually women.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Israel and Judah, and what he's describing them is he's describing his relationship as a man who's married. He's married, and his wives are committing adultery. Why? Because they don't find
pagan gods.
Because other gods. Because in the Bible we have what's called spiritual adultery, spiritual zinna. Okay, so what God is saying here in a very graphic way, this is what you did to me as a woman who's married, who doesn't find her husband attractive, but she's more attracted to other lovers because they're bigger in size and better looking. And then those men ravish her and dump her only for the husband to come and take her home again. And yet she still then leaves him again because she doesn't want that man. She's not attracted to that man. She's attracted to other men who are bigger and better looking. And that's what God is saying. That's how you've been treating me. That's what you're doing to me. That's the adultery that you're committing against me. So it is graphic, but it's graphic for a reason, to show this is how you're treating me, my people, my bride. I took you in to be my spiritual bride. Instead of loving me the way I love you and what I've done for you, you keep leaving me for other gods and goddesses because you're more attracted to these gods than you are to me. And every time you go to these gods, you are mistreated, abused, and abandoned, only to run to me, and I take you back in my arm over and over again. How much longer do you expect me to do this? Because which man would do that to a wife who does zinna against them over and over again?
Yes, I see. Yeah.
That's why it's graphic.
But, so for me to understand, I'm sorry. Am I interrupting?
No, go ahead.
So there is okay. I'm reading it. I don't really know the names in English. There's Samira, and then there's Orshalim. So those are.
That's Israel. So when it talks about Samaria, that's the capital of Israel, and then you have Jerusalem, the capital of Judah. So it's Israel and Judah.
Okay.